So open space meeting of September the 2nd by Zoom. And I guess we're supposed to have a roll call, right? So let's do the roll call here. Mike
Here.
and Christina
Here.
Hoffman, yeah, and Kristen
Here.
and Jim
Present.
and Sean
Hello.
and Sadie
Here.
and myself, David Powell. So and Bill is there. Yes,
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah.
Okay, we hear you. All right, so we're all present. And I guess we should look at the minutes, yes, of the last meeting, which for some strange reason I can't seem to find, which is a bit embarrassing. Oh, wait a minute, I managed to do it. So does anybody have any changes or updates or anything they want to say about the minutes to our last meeting, which was on July 15th? So hearing none, could somebody please propose to accept the minutes?
I propose we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, and somebody second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, and all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, so I think that's fine. All right. Okay, so how do we want to do we have progress reports from people, Sadie, that you want to share with us, or how do we go about things at this point? Because I, with the exception of the agenda, actually do not have anything that I haven't seen before.
Yes, so yeah, the agenda was a little bit general, but I had a couple things I wanted to bring up. So I had our mapping person from MVPC reach back out to us couple weeks ago now, asking if we wanted to, make any edits to any maps. So I wanted to just, kind of go through with everybody. Today I spent a lot of time going through the workbook and going through each section's map requirements and making sure that what we had from MVPC was what was required. And I don't know if you guys have any input on the maps, but I can just kind of maybe run them through. Oh, Christina, you said you have something. I figured I could just kind of, share them one by one. We could talk about anything, or we could just, say, this looks good, we're ready to go. The only thing that Kristen and I talked about a little bit was the zoning and unique features maps, but other than that, they all look great to me. So if other people have things they want to talk about map related, I thought we could just kick that out of the way first.
That sounds great to me because I had questions about the 3 maps in section 3. So
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
And
I should say,
and I also have a comment on section 4. So yeah, maybe we just start at the beginning, Sadie. If you might want to run through, and I can chime in on mine, and Jim, you can chime in on yours.
Yeah, and
Sure.
I should preface saying the required maps in section 3. So
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, let me just get them up here. Okay. So map 1 is regional context. This is very self-explanatory. Can everyone see that?
yep, perfect.
Okay, let me find where in the, oh, is it not showing? Yeah, the the workbook's great, it's super explicit about, what,
Like it suggested, I think you're talking, this is the regional context for my section, right? Section 3, the community setting.
yes, that's where
Right.
it will be put into the.
Right.
plan, yeah,
Yeah, because they suggested like using the I thought maybe now I can't quite find it, but
I know, I'm trying to find.
they were
I'm
saying
trying to pull
use
up
use the data viewer as they have referenced in the workbook, but this kind of matches an example of what they were talking about, so I think it's good.
Okay. Oh,
It's just context for like upper and lower Merrimack Valley.
yes.
And
Sorry,
I mean,
hold
just
on.
because we're practically on the New Hampshire border, I mean, should that be kind of more pronounced in the regional context map?
Sorry, just. Okay, you're seeing the regional context map now, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, say that again, Mike.
good point.
I was just thinking the state border might want to be more pronounced, just, you know what I mean, as far as like locating where we are, you know what I mean? Some people
Yes.
could pick this up and not know that Plastow is, you know, I don't know. I can't see, maybe it says New Hampshire next to all those town names, but I just thought the border might be more pronounced.
Okay.
I think that's a great suggestion, Mike.
Mhm. Sounds good. Any other thoughts about this? Kristen mentioned maybe kind of outlining the Great Marsh, since it's kind of it's a area, like a area of environmental concern that covers multiple different communities, so maybe that could be pointed out somehow.
So if we do that, we gotta zoom out more,
As it goes down south.
right? Because I mean, technically starts Gloucester.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, or maybe we just kind of show where it is, in relation to our neighboring towns. Whatever, maybe they have thoughts about that, over at MVPC, but that's a good point too.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there's, I mean, you don't necessarily need to put in layers of things that are in other maps, but
Right.
it says, I don't know if the hydrographic features and streams, like that kind of made me think like sort of pretty significant to the region that we're part of the Great Marsh, from my perspective, but yeah. I mean, you could zoom out a little and include Gloucester, probably. That wouldn't change it too much. It's not like this tells you too much
Yeah.
anyway.
Or I mean, if, you know, since it's talked about probably throughout sections of the plan, you could just highlight where it is in Newbury too, if you didn't want to change the scale.
Right.
That's true.
I'm curious how open space is defined, that green color there, just because it's in the open space and recreation plan, so I'm just curious where that layer comes from and like how it's defined. Because if I was the state, I would look at that and say, oh, Newbury's in good shape, they don't need any money because they have plenty of open space. So I'm almost like, yeah, so I'm curious where the green comes from.
Okay.
Well,
Just-
that, I think I can answer that question. The green comes from the maps that both both the state and more specifically the regional planners, the Merrimack Valley guys, they generated this map. We didn't. All right. And you'll find that MassGIS is the basis for this. And so what you have on there is the range of state and private and federal, which is a standard. I mean, I'm a bit confused about all of this. This is a standard issue map, and the regional context as I read this, in terms of planner language, is where we are in relation to other communities and interesting things like the ocean and major rivers. Am I wrong?
I mean, you know, when we do what we call baseline reports for conservation restrictions, we have a regional context map that starts that out, and it's not intended to show like adjacent open space or anything like that. It's literally to like locate you, you know, which to me
Yeah.
is what that typically would be in a regional context map. So I think I'm thinking the same way you are. I mean, at glance, that looks like the protected open space layer. So again, it would be federal, state, private, that's permanently protected. So they, I mean, if that's what it is, then they could always just add that to the label, just so people were clarified on that.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering. Is it protected open space or is it just undeveloped areas?
Yeah,
So you guys are more familiar with Mass GIS definitions than I am, so that's where my question comes from.
yeah, because to
And
me,
I agree, I feel like regional context is where are we in Massachusetts?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it seems like the coloring is just to distinguish Newbury from the other communities. It's not like I don't think it's representative of anything in particular aside from that. Is that, I mean, that was my reading.
Yeah, that's, I mean, we have
Right.
based on the base.
Yeah, if if you just look at the legend down in the bottom right-hand corner, what the red legend does is tell you what it's showing. And if you were living in West Newbury, you would get the same kind of version, except we would be a white space and West Newbury would look like us. That's is that it, Jim? Does that take care of your concern?
I don't have a concern. But it was Sean who was speaking. Is that what you were? No.
Well, no, but I thought we started off because you asked something about this, which
Well, it's in my I had it's in section 3, which starts with the regional context.
yes.
So what I would say is, I mean, and I'm going to go right to the workbook and just quickly the mapping considerations for that. Say that a map that illustrates the regional context of the community depicting surrounding communities. Check, we've done that. Its overall location in the state. Check, adding the New Hampshire, etc. Other things such as water resources. Check, which are there. Regional transportation networks and the like can also be included. I think we don't want to do too much there. And I think having the roads, 95 there makes a lot of sense. You could argue maybe Route 1 should be shown since we tend to describe our community, by sort of by also how it is in relation to Route 1. But,
Mhm.
I think other than that, I think it's fine.
So there's nothing else specified in your in the handbook in terms of information we need.
Well, there's other, the descriptive text in the regional context section,
Yeah.
mentions like the WMA, the wildlife management areas, Plum Island, wildlife refuge, etc. I think if we try to, that's getting away from, more what we just talked about, what the goal of a regional context map is.
Yeah. But what I was asking was,
Yeah.
you read a list of stuff that can be and probably should be in the regional context, and that list came from the handbook or whatever you want,
It does. They
Yeah.
specifically, this is for the required map, and I just read that.
Right. And you read us the entire list.
I did. It wasn't, yeah, and it
Yeah.
really, right.
So-
Yep. And I think we've satisfied it. I don't think we need to
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and once again, I would just remind you that all of this stuff has been done before. And unless there has been a major change, I don't think we just take everything for granted, but I do think we can sort of relax a little as I would see it. Because the source of much of this data is the Regional Planning Commission. And they update their data because the state does, and also the Planning Commission is required to. So I think we can sort of relax a bit. Okay.
All right.
So,
Does anyone have any more concerns about this map? Maybe we can move to map number 2. Alrighty, map number 2. Oh, map 2.
Yeah.
Required map 2 is the environmental justice map, which
Right.
is not applicable. So
Yep.
I'll move to the required map 3, which is the zoning map.
Right.
Or actually, sorry. We have another map for section 3, which is population. Is that what you're gonna say, Jim? Sorry.
No, I mean, if there was a population one, that would be an additional map, not a required one, I guess,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think they gave it to us in the big pack of maps that they made. So I figured.
And that makes sense. I'll just say very quickly because they call it out in the workbook, even though it's not labeled as a required map.
Mhm.
They say use a gear maps, and that there's population, with the population information there. And since we're
Mhm.
not doing an environmental justice population one, then this, I think is what you're showing seems like a good one to have in place.
Right. Okay.
Even though technically it's not required. So,
Right.
yep.
All right. Any thoughts on this map? I think we talked about this map a while ago. So I
No,
don't think
I-
they're. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
No, I like it. I like how it's starting now to zoom in a little more from the regional context one. So makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the guy who has problems with this, but let it go.
I think, well, I remember your comment, David, about how I think what you said was the grouping or the land areas didn't really.
Yeah,
weren't very
it's frankly, the problem is it's a sort of, it again is drawn from survey numbers, which are based on some principles that don't reflect our community in a helpful way. And I just find the one particular area, which is the one area as you look at it, which is to the right as to the east of Route 1A, is cuckoo land. I mean, it really is, but never mind. There's going to be a fair amount of stuff in this, in the draft, well, not draft, but in this plan in terms of the required stuff, which is cuckoo land. And we just have to, from my point of view, we should understand that and just live with it. But there you go.
Okay.
Sadie,
Yeah.
Sean here, could you just zoom in on the key for a minute?
Yes.
I can't really read it.
Yeah, it is interesting that that Plum Island, the
Right.
southern section of Plum Island is shown as sort of like in the medium densely populated area. So that must be part of the craziness that we're just willing to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, just look at it. Most of us know the town well enough to know that, for example, based on the legend, okay, the orange color, now I know I'm red-green colorblind, but in this case, there's no chance for me to, I think, make a mistake. The orange color there, okay, which is shown on the refuge, is cuckoo. I mean, it's ridiculous. Because the refuge starts, way off the top of the map, and interestingly, a vast section, I would say, up to 80% of the area to the left in red is also part of the refuge. And nobody lives there that I've ever discovered, despite the fact that everybody wanted to preserve the pink house, right?
Okay.
So do you think we should be asking to just clarify like those two and make
No,
make them the less dense?
The source is two things. The source is the data from that's input by the state and how that is screened, what kind of algorithm is laid on top of that by either the state themselves and or the local regional planning board. And depending who did what, that's how it originates. So you would have to have them change,
Right.
Basically change the screening filter. And I
mean,
do not,
I think they can do that with hopefully not too much effort. Because I mean, if somebody in town picks this up and flips to this map and sees the south end of Plum Island with that, they're going to be like, do you guys even know what you're?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
great.
do.
Just take the refuge boundary and make everything below it.
I mean, like even just something like that as like a easy fix. I agree with you. The stuff to the east of 1A, like, it seems crazy that it should almost be cut, closer back. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of houses along 1A, but they sure don't go
Into the
into
marsh.
all the marsh that Greenbelt owns or all the marsh that the feds own, or
Right.
so I just feel like with a little
also-
effort they could kind of correct some of it.
Yeah, and I also think they can put like a small disclaimer that explains why. Like polygons were selected based on, whatever the reason is that this is all looking this way. I think they can just put a little note.
I think the disclaimer note is a good idea, and I think that adding the source so that people don't think that like this group put this together. So I
Right.
think that let's just add a source as well on all of the maps as to like where the basis of the data comes from. I even like I get that Merrimack Valley put it together, but what was their data source?
Mhm. Okay. That's a
Right.
good idea too.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sorry sorry to have started a hair, but this is the one map that I would frankly suppress because I don't think it tells you anything useful. And if we can't change it, then let's not use it, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I definitely want to like see, at least I'll talk to Sophie and see if,
Yeah.
maybe get some of the backstory on this map, and maybe if we can, change it up a bit. I think it would be really good to have in the plan. So if it's not too much effort on their part, I'll definitely.
It could be.
Do we have,
Go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry,
ahead.
do we have a map that's representative that they could maybe, use as a template for, you know what I'm saying? Do we have a map that outlines the population in a reasonable way that they can look at? Because it may just be that they need to adjust the way the key is set up, they might be using the wrong ranges or something, who knows? But
I'm not 100% sure, but I can also look at other like population maps in other towns and see if like I can find one that makes more sense and be like, can we do it like this instead?
Well,
I see.
I think, okay, the shortest route to this, I think, is probably to talk to, what's his name, Steve, who's head of the GIS operations at MVPC, because that's where this comes from. So ask him, tell him it's, or I will, that nicely, it's a piece of nonsense. And how come it works that way?
Yeah, I
Um,
think Sadie and I'll keep notes on all these, and we'll have a meeting with Steve and
Yeah,
Sophie and just
yeah.
go through it.
Right. But
no,
that's,
I was just, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I was just wondering if, if maybe in one of the planning documents or the older open space report, if we had a population-based map already. That's out of date maybe, or something, but something that we could just say, hey, this is what we're looking for, something like that. But
I
is
don't
anyone
know
aware of
that
that?
I've seen one, but it's, I'll
Okay,
definitely
okay.
look through things that we have. I think that's a good idea, Sean.
The only other source I can think of but I don't know whether it gets into maps, is what's known as the American Community Survey, which is a function of the census, of the federal census, because I just recently come across some interesting data from that. But that was entirely percentage, it wasn't graphic. But that kind of thing, for example, will tell you how many people between the ages of 7 and 13 or whatever live in your community if you dig far enough. Whether they have maps to map them, I sort of doubt it. Anyway, so
Just-
I think maybe we should move on, looking at the time.
I just had one thought that could be a simple alternative to this. You know, we have 2 voting precincts in town. You could
Yes.
eliminate the 3-shade scaling, and it could be precinct 1 and precinct 2 with like the number or something like that. You know, just to
Yeah.
give you a sense of like, you know, more than 50% of the population lives on this side of the town, or more than 50% of the population lives on this side of the town, and you can eliminate like the density, aspect of it. That's just
Yeah.
a thought to kick around, you know.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. I will mention that as well.
Okay.
All right, so map 3 is the zoning map. I don't know if that's helping. So I'll zoom in on the key real quick if people want to see what the key looks like. Kristen and I were talking, and we don't really love this because it's unclear, if that's like a hatched section. Might ask to just make that a little bit clearer. But other than that, I don't think I had anything. Any other comments on this map?
Yeah, I think this is fine, Sadie. I mean, we'll double check everything, but it's, the MVPC does our zoning maps already, so it's,
The only thing
always
which I think is missing from this, because it isn't current, is the designated overlay districts for the MBTA, right?
those are there. Those are the green ones, David.
Are they there? Underlined?
Multifamily.
Is that, okay, all right. I told you I was red, green colorblind, didn't I?
Yeah.
But they're
Pretty
not.
hard to see. Yeah.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Are they over in Byfield?
Yes, they are.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, of course. One stupidly overlays the the commercial. Yeah.
It's got some
Yes.
complicated aspects of the
Right. That should be a green border, but I
symbology.
guess it doesn't sort of. Okay. All right. Great. So
All
let's
right.
go on.
Yeah.
Good with zoning map. 4 is soils.
Uh-huh.
So
Well,
yeah, I
none of
do have
us.
some comments. At least I had some things that, lists how it needs to be shown. And so if you could zoom into the, legends, that would help.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So hydrographic features.
And I think this is what, I think they pretty much have everything that the workbook required, like poorly drained soils, slow infiltration, well and excessively drained soils, prime farmland. I think those were all specifically mentioned, so.
Yep, they are there. Those were all here on my list too. Do we have any farmland of state importance or local importance in town?
Yes. There
Did
are soils
they-
of local, state, and federal importance. And then there's even like well, the local soils were like approved by the town a few years back.
Okay, well,
I
it
don't know
does
if
talk
they're
about
on this
adding
map.
that in there, right? I see we've got the prime farmland, I'm assuming that that's the federal prime farmland, so do we need to add in the state and local? Do they have that data?
I can inquire. Is it not, do we think it's all, just all farmland? Is that like dotted, speckled?
Well, let's just, yeah, we can ask them what they include in prime farmland, but,
Okay.
Yeah, they specifically call out the 3 different ones, and I know that prime farmland is typically a federal designation, so if it does include, yeah, it probably wouldn't. So yeah, if we could just break it down, that would be great. But the other ones look, yeah, they look good. All the other categories that are listed. Not being able to confirm the locations on the map, but the categories all look good.
Yeah,
So, and can you go over to the right, just Plum Island? Or zoom out,
yes.
yeah. Okay, so that's a different green than, I don't know, I just was starting to think Sandberry or Beach Island, and soil type there
Yeah.
versus the other green on the map, but
I think,
it's the
looks like,
drainage, yeah.
it looks like the green is the same, but this is like farmland, I guess. So it's got,
Yeah.
It's like a combination of these two things. Is
Gotcha.
my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, is the prime farmland only over well and excessively drained soils? Anyway, I guess I'm not totally sure that is the case, but it might be if we look at it in detail. But yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay. Any other comments on this one?
Well, I guess I would just add that I think with all these maps, it's probably a good idea to have at least a paragraph that explains what you're seeing. So
Yeah,
you don't have to go looking through trying to figure it out with that index. Sometimes it's very
yeah,
difficult to read.
yeah, I need, and like a little like caption underneath each one.
Yeah, yeah,
That'll definitely be.
Well,
okay.
has anybody looked at how this topic was handled in the 2010? Yes, no?
I haven't, I've kind of just been going off the new workbook.
Well, okay, but wait. It wants a map, right? And it
Yeah.
presumably wants some discussion of why they want the map, yes?
So the maps, I hear the comment about putting a paragraph on the map that explains what it is, but these maps go with the plan, and the plan describes what's on the map. It's like here, as seen on map 4, X, Y, and Z. So they are companion maps to the document. So I'm not.
Yeah, but wait, look, they haven't changed the whole structure of what they're requiring, as I understand it. They've eliminated a bunch of things, streamlined some stuff in terms of the state. But what I'm suggesting here is look at what they currently require, and they will probably require some kind of description of the maps you submit. And that description can most readily be found, it seems to me, as a place to start or a model in the 2010 plan. Because to the best of my knowledge, most of Newbury as it was 25 years ago in terms of things like soils. And I don't think we've learned a great deal more to change that.
Yeah, they didn't highlight soils on the list of maps in the 2010 plan. It's got water resources and superficial geology. There wasn't a soils specific map, it looks like. Just in looking at the list in the appendix.
Great.
So
Okay.
that might be a changed map for today. That wasn't there back then.
There's no narrative that
I
cover
would-
that?
I can, if you give me a second, I'll try to.
Yeah, sure,
locate that,
right, that
but-
would be great, Mike.
I mean, I have the map pulled up, so you can see what the old map looked like, but yeah, it actually doesn't, it's the closest one, but it actually doesn't. It's a surficial geology map, and it just, talks about geology, and it talks about sand and gravel deposits and till and bedrock and fine grained deposits and floodplain alluvium. So the requirements this time are a little different. So we can pull. This map is in my section, so I'm happy to look, when I'm drafting, I'm happy to dredge up what was listed on the other one and see if there's any relevant information we can transfer over. Thanks.
And I think they did give us a superficial geology map as well. But that's not required this time.
Yeah, it's not required. So I actually took out of the section 4, our old section 4 had some language that I did borrow from the actually from the master plan, but I took out the sentences that dealt with geology other than 1 or 2 high level things, just to provide a little bit more context. So I agree to not include the geology map.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's just a summary paragraph on soils in 2010, and then there's a table that lists the 5 primary soil types across town. That was the extent back then.
But
Yeah.
there's no map. Mike, there's no map?
I mean, based on the map label, let me get to the end of the report here and see if it's in there.
So yeah, should we go
Yeah,
on to the next one, map 5?
right.
Sure.
Yeah, why don't we move on to the next whatever while Mike is just searching just to,
Okay,
Okay.
sure. The next one is water resources. And I can zoom in on the key.
okay.
Okay, so it needs to include the watersheds, which looks like those are on there. The
Mhm.
surface waters, which looks like those are on there and broken down into good categories. Aquifer recharge areas.
Yeah, it says aquifers, so I assume that that's sufficient. It's these like lime green areas, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, that's why the water protection district is there. And okay. Yeah, the one in the Byfield area is a bit different. Because there's no real agreement as to whether there is a kind of aquifer under the area of Byfield, West Newbury, and Georgetown. It's mostly the river, as in the Parker. Okay.
And then, what else?
And then the flood hazard areas, they're on there too, I would imagine.
Yes.
FEMA flood hazard zones. Okay, so the 100 and 500. Okay.
And then the wetlands, it has various wetlands, forested and non-forested.
Yeah, again, I would be curious where the source of that, if that's like the Mass DEP map, which I think is better, they recommended the NWI map, but I feel like the Mass DEP one is probably better. And then National Hydrography data set is typically also far superior to the NWI map. So yeah, I would just be curious again in terms of the source of where those wetland boundaries came from. But if they just came from Mass GIS because they're DEP's layers, that's fine.
Okay. Cool. Next map.
There was no straight soils map. Just looked, it was just the superficial geology map.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike.
Alrighty. Map 6 is unique features, which I think I had wanted to. Yeah, I was talking earlier with Kristen, we were thinking it looks kind of it's pretty busy. There's a lot going on. And we thought that the chapter lands and the open space could stick to the inventory of open space map, because I think that map already has like those on it anyway, so.
Yeah, that was a question I had, just since we already have an open space map, why do we need to have all the detail on the open space? Not that it isn't unique and, you know, wonderful, but unique features. Yeah.
I don't know if they were thinking like it's important to see these labels in the context, like see all these things like in the context of these lands, like
Right.
maybe that was why, but I don't know if that's super necessary, but
Yeah, I
what do you
mean,
guys think?
maybe it shouldn't be called unique features then, and it should be more of just like habitat, unique habitats in Newbury, or just some other thing to focus it on the biomap layer that they're depicting in the natural heritage layers and stuff like that. Unique features is kind of a weird title to me. Like,
Yeah,
be like all the open space and all the priority resource areas. Like, to just call it unique features just seems like a weird title.
yeah,
Like calling it, I mean, I kind of like the section that it's in the scenic resources and unique environment section. I don't know, are we allowed to change the map name, or maybe we put it in parentheses underneath
Yeah.
their title?
It also doesn't have areas of critical environmental concern on this map, which is required. That's another thing that I was.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with taking off this chapter layers, because I feel like that does make it a little busy. So I'm totally on board with what you guys recommended as taking off, and then maybe we see what it looks like, and then we see what we think we might need to add.
Okay.
Do we have an idea of what unique features we want to highlight? Because maybe just tell them, hey, do you have something that highlights these particular things in town? Because I'm guessing that these maps are, they're generated from a kind of a geological perspective, where we really are just talking about what our town is like and nothing
Yeah,
particularly about.
the guide here says to include on this particular map, scenic landscapes, major characteristic or unusual geologic features, cultural, archaeological and historic areas, and unique environments. And under unique environments, they say areas of critical environmental concern, priority habitats for rare species. And then for scenic landscapes, it's like stream corridors, open meadows, hilltops, agricultural landscapes. Maybe that's why they put chapter lands, scenic roads, anything that makes your community different than your neighbors.
That's
It's rather
way too
vague,
much
but
stuff to have in a map, I think. But
it is. I think those are just, those are all ideas. It's not,
okay.
Yeah, hearing that list, Sadie, there are definitely things that I think should come off, including chapter lands in particular. And then there are definitely things that should go on. If this is like cultural and historical features, I mean, we have Route 1A should be labeled as the scenic byway. We should label the greens that have, the upper green and lower green. We could put, as you're, I think, suggesting, Sean, there's sort of a hand selection that doesn't exist as a Mass GIS layer, but we, among us, can identify from the history of everyone who's lived here and from other plans we have what those unique features are and get that information in a more hand-picked way.
Yeah,
over to
I mean, if I
everybody's-
was reading this report, that's what I'd rather see.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, this stuff's great and all, but where are all the unique features, you know, where are the fun places to go? Why do we have all this open space there? What's cool about it? That kind of thing.
And I
Yeah.
think that looking at it through the, oh, go ahead. I think that also if we identify those areas, like that's helping us look through what are our priorities, like where are we headed in terms of our priorities? Like what are the properties that might help protect the scenic resources and unique environments that we have in the town? So being able to call out those on a map will then also help us visually say, okay, where should some of our priorities be? So I feel like might be maybe we send all of our ideas of what needs to go on the unique habitats map, we send them all in an email to Sadie. And Sadie, you start collating them. Because I feel like
Yeah.
everybody probably has a different set of things that they think are unique.
Yeah. And I feel like unique features aren't gonna just be in like a GIS database, like it's
No.
more of a qualitative data set, I feel like, so I think that's a really good idea.
I don't think there's any harm in having a second map too, you know, like if you look at the 2010 map, it is cleaner only because it's not showing the biomap habitat, you know, slash lines over everything. It breaks out all those unique features, does a lot of stuff with stars, has like locators and things like that, and dots and different things like that. But I feel like when you add all the hash marks over everything, it like clouds the map up a little bit. And I mean, if there's got to be a, you know, unique features 1 and 2, I mean, to make it more legible.
Yeah, like one is like NHESP biomap, like designated, and then one is like cultural and unusual geologic features. Something like that.
Yeah.
Mike, it
I
sounds
feel
like
like
you're
the map,
looking
the
at
old
one.
map has a whole list, so you don't want to recreate the wheel.
Yeah,
Right.
So let's at least add those back on.
Okay.
And it's just like in a really organized way. It's like you just put a dot on the map with like letter A and you go down to the legend to see what letter A is. So you
Okay.
don't have to cloud the map. Do you want me to share my screen so you can see what it looks like?
Yes,
You
I
can
was gonna
I
say, I haven't seen that in a minute.
think you just have to make me a presenter.
Oh, yes. I think you should be able to now.
Should be coming up. So I'll zoom out so you can see. But I feel like this is, you know, a pretty good one. You just put dots on the maps of all the places and you number them, and then down here it gives you is the key that tells you what all those places are. And there's critical, that's an interesting one, critical resource areas. And so maybe we include that, but then there's the scenic landscapes, historical and cultural locations. So and it looks like Merrimack Valley was part of this one, so they probably
Yeah.
still have those features to add in there.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I'll definitely refer to that map. When I reach out to them.
Yeah, and I think they have like protected open space on there, but I feel like those are the things we would turn off. The old one had the protected open space, it had chapter 61, but I feel like we've agreed to turn those off.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, especially because we're gonna show it all again in section 5. Like the map for section 5, like re-highlights all that stuff. So
yeah, that's what I was
Yep.
thinking too. Okay, so anything else about unique features map map, what's next? The inventory of open space. I believe is next.
I propose we don't talk about that one because we know we're working on it. We've, you know, Mike's done a lot of work and we'll keep working on it. Getting all the chapter lands, make sure they're updated and accurate and all the open space properties.
Okay, yeah.
Is it map,
Hard.
map 7 in the resilience? The climate change section? No.
Oh, yes, I have that one filed separately because it was not from MVPC. Let me find it.
Yeah.
I have the ones that Ella submitted. Is that what you mean, Jim?
I'm not even sure. I just see, I'm looking at the workbook, which, you know, after the scenic resources section,
Okay, gotcha.
there's the climate change section, and, you know, there's always a mapping consideration paragraph. And
Yes.
that's what I was looking at.
So Ella made some really great maps for that section. And I think Sean, I also have some maps from you, so I'll show those as well. So this one is yeah, this is what they were asking for in the workbook. Resilient land and hotspots in particular.
Right. Yeah.
Zoom in a little.
The TNC tool. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is hotspots, open space and rec areas, and then there's dots on it as well.
That's an awesome map. This is the first time I've seen it. I know Ella was working hard on this one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
I should mention, when I was playing around with the Nature Conservancy viewer, the concept of hotspots is, how should I say it? Well, they actually mean heat, as in hot, like warm. They don't
Yeah,
mean
I don't think-
environmentally sensitive.
Yeah, I'm gonna
So-
say that isn't what they're talking about, is it?
No,
I think it
they're not.
is. I think it's like spots that experience high temperatures, like physically
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
in
but
fact, well, just to say, just in fact, if you do look at this on the TNC thing, the only thing that shows up is Newburyport downtown, because basically it's mostly building and paving. And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about impervious surfaces that reflect heat. That's
Mhm.
that's what they're looking, that's what they're saying. Now, having said all that, it's not clear that the guidelines are actually looking for that. And that's not what I saw in the example we had from somewhere out in the west, Maynard. Yeah, they seem to interpret hotspots as environmentally sensitive places, like they got it confused with flooding areas or areas that erode, stuff like that. So if you look at the red here, I mean, I think when I started thinking about that, it occurred to me that Newbury doesn't really have any hotspots. And
whoops, what do you mean?
my thinking, well, in other words, we don't have any spots in town that qualify as really hot areas due to the fact that they reflect sunlight during hot days. Like a large parking lot, cities where there are no trees, things like that. When they say hotspots, that's what they're talking about. If you look at like Boston or Quincy or one of these places, the whole place is red. Because there are, and the only other, everything else is like where there's a park or something like that. So the concept of hotspots is like reversed as far as we're concerned.
But
We
Sean,
don't have any.
I'm puzzled by where on the map do you get any kind of definition or description of hotspot?
Sadie, you want to show the one, the one I provided, I actually derived from the TNC viewer.
Yes, I will.
It's not as, it's probably not as nice as that one, but there was very little to show actually. Yeah, so here's the one. I think that's the one. Is that the one that
Well,
says?
there you, that says hotspots flood,
Right.
right?
So the way this worked is they actually, I think, are asking for several different things, but in particular, the TNC hotspots map, if you look on this, the only place that actually shows up as a hotspot is way up at the top where Newburyport is. It's that deep purple way up there.
This right here.
Yeah, that's it, pretty much. And then maybe a little bit down below that. Everything else, those other purple areas are not hotspots. They're actually,
This, yeah, this says land trust.
yeah, those are just, I'm not sure how those showed up on there, but basically, I don't know, I don't know where they get those from actually, but I tried to include areas that they do have, I think it's, I think it also is flooding and erosion areas and things like that. So there are overlays you can put on it. But basically, if you just go to the TNC viewer and you look at Newbury, there's virtually nothing there. There's that purple thing at the very top.
Oh,
Other
and
than
that's
that,
a heat, that's a temperature hotspot. So that's where the
Yes.
temperature gets really hot. Okay.
exactly. And
Not
it's
flood.
not due to, like you would think, you could see it's a little bit dark on the beach over on Plum Island, but that's not really what they're talking about. So they kind of correct for that. They're literally talking about places that are urban hotspots. We don't really have any in Newbury since we're not urban.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's not really a suitable map for us. I guess that's the point. So I tried to make it a little more suitable by including, I think, I forget exactly what I did there, but it's in the description. Yeah, so that's how I got that map. It's a little busy, but that's what you get when you go to that viewer. The other thing that's nice about this is there's a reference to this. So if you actually open this document up, you can click on that link, you can go to the viewer, and you can play around with the map yourself. So if anyone was so inclined, they could do that. So rather than having MVPC make these static maps, this is an example of one where if you click on it and go to it and visit it, you can actually play around with it yourself.
Okay.
so okay, so there certainly seems to be a more flexible, subtle tool. What are you suggesting, that this is the source of the map required in this section as opposed to the MVPC one, which was the one with the red stripe down the beach? Yes?
Right.
No.
Exactly.
I think,
That's what I'm suggesting.
yeah. MVPC
'Cause if
didn't
you
make us
look at-
any climate change maps, but yeah, go ahead, Sean.
If you look at other, there's only been, the Maynard OSRP is the only one that was approved according to the new guidelines. But if you look at a few of the other ones, specifically if you get into urban areas like Salem or Beverly or something like that, Gloucester, you'll start to see these hotspots pop up. That's actually what they're talking about when that's what they want to see on this, and it's literally a TNC hotspot requirement. So it's, and like I said, anyone can go to the TNC website, pull up, put in a coordinate for Newbury. Actually, I think you just type in the zip code or something, and you see what you see. It's so I think it's, as long as we have a map that says it's the Nature Conservancy, and this is what they say we have for hotspots, then I think we're golden. But I just added some stuff because it really had nothing on it.
Okay,
So reading the
Okay,
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think we're getting a little lost in the weeds, but I understand that these weeds are important. However, looking at the handbook itself, which I just pulled up, because we all seem to be, kind of under its umbrella or something, I see this wonderful sentence which says, hotspots are good places to locate new parks or think about the redevelopment of existing parks that include tree planting, spray park construction, and other heat mitigation strategies. Another useful example is the City of Medford's OSRP, which included an appendix that evaluated their parks and open spaces based on how they could be leveraged to mitigate and minimize vulnerability to climate change by using nature-based solutions.
right,
This is a whole set of concerns which, if you live in Medford, are very real. But if you live in Newbury, are incredibly minimal, right?
right. It's just, like I said, it's just, if you literally, if you go to the TNC website, say, okay, go to Newbury, show me what's happening for hotspots. There's nothing there, literally nothing.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only part you'd see is that purple little section up near Newburyport. Makes sense. That's the urban area of, it's a city. So
So
that's
I
what
think
shows
that
up.
means that we
Makes
don't
perfect
have to
sense.
include a map. It only says to include the hotspot map if it's applicable to your community.
Well, okay, so I would agree that it is not applicable, but I would also say that if 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 the point of this is to, and I thought we had mentioned this before as well, one of the concerns was that they would have a potential checklist that they'd be using to determine whether or not this would be a report they could use in order for us to, submit this as support for a grant set.
So I think that, I mean, the point here is for the town to identify concerns we have about climate impacts. So we just need to say this, like Newbury's blessed with a lot of areas. We don't have any heat concerns at the moment. However, we have lots of flooding concerns. And then you make a map that shows what our concerns are. So I do think it just specifically needs to, in an image, represent what the narrative is saying about our climate resilience concerns.
Okay, so that's why I included the flooding and all that, but also there's
Yeah.
another map as well that is the other required map, which was, forget exactly what it was now, off the top of my head.
Well, we just showed the flood areas, the
And
0.2% and 5%.
was it this one, Sean, that you meant?
Yeah, okay, there we are. And again, this is derived directly from the source there. Basically, you could see this is a prediction of what might happen as a result of, well, this is, okay, so this is a model of future climate impacts. I actually thought this is a pretty important map. It's probably more important than the other one, but all that gray area there basically is saying you know, there's flooding in these here regions, watch out. So in the narrative does, I think it goes over that. I mean, here's the thing, it's supposed to be 2 pages too, so I had to keep it down to, I mean, you could go on about this stuff for days, but with 2
Yeah.
pages, you can only say so much. I will add that there were other sources that I used in the narrative, like the hazard planning that was done. That was pretty useful because, first of all, it shows that the town is interested in this sort of thing. And secondly, it highlights what the town itself sees as important, which is exactly, I think, what we need to put in here. But also some other sources that, frankly, I use to kind of illustrate how they don't actually apply. Like one of them was FEMA. The FEMA map for this area was just, again, it's one of those things that the scale on it is so large that it, a flood zone to FEMA is the entire eastern coast of Massachusetts. So that doesn't show up very well on a map of Newbury, so to speak. Anyways, they didn't seem to think we had a particularly we don't have a how should I say it, severe flooding of a scale like, say, and I think this is what they're thinking of, New Orleans in our area. Now we get flooding all the time, but we're not gonna, the whole city isn't gonna disappear because we get flooded. So
No, but but Sean, the thing is, there are some, as our resilience plan for the town indicates, there are some key aspects to flooding issues.
Yeah.
And how, okay, and what I was going to say is, and part of them are the whole issue of the east-west connectivity, which is somewhat problematic in Newbury because of the fact that we only have really 2 or 3 corridors. And so one of the reasons we got whatever it was, over $300,000 to put a culvert in on Orchard Street is because it's a vulnerable street. And in the same way, currently, I'm in the process of trying to get the police department to acknowledge the fact that we should have some sort of warning on Newman Road that it now regularly at high tide floods. And this, prevents. Okay, so
I would agree with all that, and that's I was thinking about that as well, but I started to say to myself, well, we're really talking about open space and recreation. I didn't want to get too much into the planning and hazard planning and all that stuff. Yeah, that's important, but I think it should be, it needs to go into somewhere else. There are going to be climate impacts on the area, just as there are going to be climate impacts on every area. But what we can do about them, that's a different story. And it's more, I would say, it's surprisingly what I came up with were, fairly simple solutions, things like, don't build a big development in the middle of the marsh, stuff like that. So take care of the marsh, because the marsh actually absorbs a lot of water, it's kind of like a sponge for high tides, etc. So this is a good thing. Don't look at it as something that needs to be drained, for example. I'm getting a little bit off. These things, when you read the section, you'll see that's like there's one sentence. That's about it. But grow more trees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all that stuff as part of the text of the section. But
well, I think
two
this is
in particular.
it's a very complex area, this, and I think we can only hope to at least be able to be, well, show that we're aware of the fact that that is the case and that our community is vulnerable in a number of particular ways that we, are aware of. And I think that's part of our responsibility here. Can we move on to the next topic area?
Sure.
Yeah, and I just, as we're moving on, while Sadie's bringing that up, but just Sean, thank you for this, and I'd be happy to, I'd be interested to set up a time to just talk with you more. I know a little bit about the MVP process, which I know the workbook talks about, and then just, happy to review anything in more detail.
Good. All right.
All right, so this is the open space map, and there is a version with lot numbers. I think we had asked them to get rid of the lot numbers, and then here's the key.
Yeah, Sadie, I think the date I had after we went back and forth with them on that, they gave us an updated version on March 31st, and I believe that had removed the map and lot numbers from it at that. Oh no, it didn't. It had them on it still. So
I
that-
think,
Go ahead.
yeah, this one says 320, so this might be out of date. I apologize if it is. But it doesn't have the lot numbers. The other one is identical.
Yeah, so the one that was on like a couple days later, because I went back and forth with Sophia,
Yeah,
because I had noticed a bunch of stuff missing, and it was hard for me to like correlate to her what to add without the map and lot numbers. So I had her put those on there so I could cross-reference them with like parcels that were missing, and she had done that.
okay.
I just don't know that we received the next version without the map, like with the map and lots removed, because we don't need to have them permanently on there.
Right. Okay, so maybe this is the one I should be sharing, but it does have numbers.
Yeah, I think that's the most updated one we got from them.
Okay, and I can definitely contact her and ask her to remove those again.
So minus any changes in chapter lands, all permanently protected land, I believe at that point in March or April, was up to date at that point in time. So obviously 6 months have gone by, some things could have changed. It would probably be more on the smaller end, maybe either via the town or like a green belt, but I don't think they've expanded the refuge anymore since the pink house stuff that we added in there back in the spring. And from what I know with working alongside Fish and Wildlife, I'm pretty sure that the wildlife management areas are up to date as well in here.
So this one's in good shape.
I think so. Just barring those just couple quick changes, again, dropping the map and lots off there, and then we can have a discussion about what we're looking at as a snapshot in time for the chapter lands, because as more time goes on, then it's like, okay, now we need the next round, and what got added or what got, taken out of chapter. And, at some point, we just got to be like, all right, at this point in time, this was all land in the chapter 61 program.
Yeah.
I thought that this
Agree.
map was the inventory of open space that we skipped over before.
Yes, this one is it is,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
So some of Mr. Noyce's comments about historic or prevalent places in town, I think we'll see addressed in the unique features map that we were looking at before, especially if it's or if one or maybe one of two maps, whichever, has those tables that Christina was pointing out with, starred features or whatever. I think a lot of those places that Mr. Noyce wanted to see on like the recreational like opportunities map that we were creating, I think it kind of gets handled on that unique features map.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Cool, so I think this map is good.
So, are there more?
I think this is the last one. Last map that we need to worry about. So I will definitely get in touch with Sophia or Sophie and make those changes. The next thing I wanted to talk about was survey results, which I think, David, you had done a good deal of analysis there. I can share what you sent me, the first look survey results document. Or do you, if you want to just talk about what you thought?
You're talking to me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
Oh.
good. I thought maybe since you'd spent some time looking at those
Yes,
results, you
right.
wanted to talk about it a little bit?
I would like to, yes, just briefly. I did send that out to everybody last week. Did you get it? Called First Look Review of OSRP survey responses?
I did.
Okay. Anyone else not get it? All right, okay. Because as you probably all know, because you got a panicked email from me that my email got sort of, how should we say, confiscated by somebody. Anyway, I think the broadly held concerns that I find to be pretty well substantiated in the sense that one of the things I did was to go through the list, and where I could identify people, I looked at people who I know either personally or, sort of generally in terms of their role in the community, and to see if, what kinds of things they said, not because it's necessarily more important than what other people said, but I think if a pattern that emerges that's a little different from overall, then maybe one wants to ask some other questions. Okay, so out of this emerged a very, to me, a important and distressing fact that we only had response from a very small handful of people who work as volunteers on town boards and committees. Now, I think we need to remember that technically, and it can be important, this plan has to be reviewed, and at least there is a potential for, comment and requests for change or whatever by, if I'm right, Kristen, the select board, the conservation commission, the planning board, and the historical commission, right? Is that,
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but that sounds right.
yeah, okay.
They have to review the draft plan before we finalize it, right?
The what, sorry?
They're going to review the draft plan once it's prepared.
Yes, yeah, okay. And so also they will review the final copy too. Because actually it has to be submitted by the town, and the select board actually has to authorize its submittal, okay? Now, the fact that only one member of the select board completed the survey, I think no members of the Conservation Commission. Now, that raised a second problem, and that is I can't definitively say exactly how many did, didn't, whatever, because many people were anonymous, which we allowed as an option. Also, rather frustratingly, as I said to Sadie when we talked about this, where there were a number of very interesting broad comments at the end of the survey, and one in particular with some guy who was offering services of physical kinds. I can't remember exactly what. Unfortunately, there was no name and no email. And so one of the things I think we need to do in the future is to make sure to encourage people who are offering either help or comments or wanting to get involved, reminders that please go back to the beginning and give us your details, okay? However, given that that was unfortunate, what is also, I think, essentially very important is that all of the members of those 4 boards or commissions should now be specifically requested to complete a survey. And it should be done in a way that has some pressure to it, because I think the least they can do, because they have volunteered to do what they do, is to help us achieve what we need to achieve and what they should have some interest in being a product that they can get behind. So I'd like your comments on that. How do we handle that? Do we do that? I think my personal feeling is we must.
And would it be like a sort of similar situation where it's anonymous, or are you saying that we aren't offering that it would be anonymous?
Well, I think, okay, I put it this way, I personally think that they should put their name to it. I think also we might have to, in a note we send out, say, if you have already responded to this, but you did it anonymously, could you please, cite your responses? I'm sorry, but I feel very strongly about this, because part of what happens time and time again in Newbury is we go through a great deal of work, the kind of things we've been doing tonight and the work you've all been doing to lead up to this, and then nothing happens because there are too many people who just don't seem to feel that it's part of what they sort of around to do, and there's no mechanism, there's no levers given to a group like this unless we have the involvement of those people, at least at a lip service kind of level.
Could it be anonymous for the public facing results of it? Like, we're only the ones that are privy to knowing, who said what. I mean, I could understand if a select board member didn't want, like, hey, X, Y, whatever, and then the other 3 or 4 are like, oh yeah, but we're all in. Like I can understand that, doesn't. But I mean, to me, is it more important that we just get 5 responses from the select board than it is who responds with what?
Yeah, and we want to encourage, like, I feel like not allowing it to be anonymous might discourage people from saying how they really feel about something, which is kind of what we want. But
Especially if they're an elected person, like I get that, I do.
Well,
I think we can definitely encourage them to write names, but I mean, if someone doesn't want to, we can't force them.
I feel like there could be 2 ways. Like, people could respond, like if they have an official duty, they might respond to the answer to the questions in one way, and if they are really speaking personally, then they might answer questions slightly different. Like, I do feel like what you do for a job does not always completely align with your personal goals. And so I think that, I did the survey, but you didn't see my name pop up because, even though I did it, so it didn't matter because it was anonymous. So I didn't put it on there. And I don't know, I guess I have a little trouble with asking people to do that, or even forcing them to do it. I would rather just go in kind of like we have and sit down at one of their meetings and say, okay, let's get some feedback. And then we document that we've done that.
I
Well, I
agree
think-
with that too. And just to back that or support,
Yeah.
I think that I don't want to. So the point of the survey is to really get a feel for what the town thinks about open space, not about specific people on committees, elected officials, or whatever. And then making them put their name down will certainly create bias in some way or another. So, and I think that gets away from the purpose. I mean, I understand your point, and I agree with you in many parts of it about, we want to, all this hard work, we want to see action after this. I don't know if this is the tool or the place to be pushing them right now. I think the purpose of the survey is just to get information to fuel this report, and then take that next battle someplace else, but maybe not here in this, in the survey.
Wait, and kind of related to that, I mean, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but summarizing the findings. I mean, say, do we have the document, right, that took each question, but doing like more of a summary write-up or something that, we can be presented to each of, say, the bodies mentioned in David's, that you're talking about, the committees, the select board, et cetera. Like that would seem to me be something that's effective. Because we talked about reporting out on the survey, right? So how are we, it gets a bit into that. Because I'm also leaning towards saying having them publicly fill out the survey and put their names on there. I think that's dangerous territory a little bit.
I think we can kind of just really like push for them to put their name, but obviously, like, there is the option to do it anonymously if someone wants to, take
Well,
that route.
it's interesting, isn't it, that would tell us something too. I think well,
That's
no,
true.
but I think the point that Christina made is rather important, and that is that in their official capacity, they might fill it out one way, and in their unofficial capacity as an anonymous person, they might fill it out very differently. Unfortunately, I think if that's so, that's extremely sad. But anyway, I would point to the fact that on public record, because he did it, one of the planning board members who I will not name, very, very articulately and considerable length has fingered us to be a CPA group, that we are pressing for Community Preservation Act, which of course we're not, but that seems to be, and he wasn't at all afraid of publicly saying he was totally opposed to that. So there are people out there who have the well, whatever, the sort of the courage behind their own thoughts and opinions. Okay, well, all right, let's do it and encourage people to identify themselves if they feel comfortable doing so, or to not do so. The main thing that I think is problematic with that, beyond obviously my personal views of of the situation, is the fact that if you get something interesting, how the hell do you know who said it? Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think if someone, I mean, some people might just have forgotten to put their name, but I think if, someone didn't put it, then they were, like choosing to stay anonymous. And I mean, like the point of the survey was just to collect data. We could have some sort of call for like, like another public meeting or, somewhere where we
Mhm.
want people to like get more involved. But I feel like this survey is kind of just like a very, minimally invasive, like, here, tell us how you feel. You don't have to tell us who you are, like kind of
Right.
thing. But I mean, I think it would be cool to find out who the people were who had, like, especially someone who was like offering to get involved, but I think that's just the nature of a survey sometimes, but yeah.
I think it's
Oh.
almost even more important to get the people who responded who aren't working in some capacity on behalf of the town, because those folks are going to get a shot at this. They are going to be able to review the draft. They are, going to have like a little bit more access to us just by nature of what they do versus the public, which we just wanted to get their feedback because those are the people that we, can't talk to all the people in the whole town. So anyway, in my mind, it's more important to get their input versus the people that work for the town.
And,
Well,
I guess
yeah,
I would just add that the point of surveys is to get as many responses as possible. Anything that you can do to increase the number of responses makes your survey data that much more reliable. So unfortunately, anonymity does increase response usually. So I'm actually, most people don't put anything for that stuff. I was kind of surprised to see as many people as there were who admitted who they were.
Yeah, and if that's our
usually
goal,
not
just
done.
like finding a captive audience to get more data, then I'm like, I would agree with
Yeah.
that. But I agree with the anonymity as well. We just
Yeah,
want
I
to
would
get
much
20
rather see
more responses. Great.
well,
more
perhaps,
responses. Yeah.
yeah, perhaps this will will inadvertently put all of them, if we do this, in a situation, an interesting bind. And that is, if they identify themselves, what are they saying? If they don't identify themselves, are they going to get identified as not identifying themselves? But anyway, right? I mean, that's okay. I will, having raised this, I will volunteer to draft what would essentially be an email request, which would, well, you will see what I'm going to do, but essentially, I think set out the reason for soliciting them directly and leaving it pretty open as to how they respond, just essentially seeing how they respond to the survey as it is, and not even mention name or no name. Okay, well, would that be a way to do this?
I think that's great.
And then we can
Okay.
like vote on whether we want to send it or not at the next meeting.
Right, yes. Okay. I just frankly hope out of this might come a bit more dialogue across a broader base of people who play important roles in the town. I'm not trying to say that, we have to ask daddy kind of thing, but if they're not even aware of what's going on and that they have a chance to help and influence it, then that's kind of sad for me. Okay, let's move
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say my 2
Yeah.
cents. I love how everyone talks on this meeting, by the way. There's so many meetings where not everybody talks, so I really appreciate hearing from everybody. What if, on behalf of the committee, I sent an email out to all the boards directly saying, hey, you heard about this at town meeting, you saw all our public outreach, last chance, we love that you're a volunteer already for the town, last chance to give your input, please reply by Friday, and the survey is officially closed. Because I'm wondering, didn't we kind of close the survey already? So this is just gonna, like, if we give this a whole nother meeting to have another conversation about whether we send it or not, I'm just more sort of wondering if that slows down the process of like analyzing the survey results and moving to the next phase. I like the idea of giving them one last chance directly. I can get all those emails through the town administrator of people who are serving actively on a committee or board. One more request on behalf of all you. Get 20, hopefully 20, I don't know how
Right.
many replies, work them into the survey results, and then we're really done the survey. Would that work?
Can I suggest one addition, which is maybe you ask them to invite people to take the survey as well and make it available to everybody, just in case. Because the point is, we want to get more responses. So, I mean, right now we have about 100 and something, I guess. So if 20 people respond, that's a lot. That's 20% of what we have already. That's a pretty significant response. So if we
Sure.
can draw it from the people who, and the other concern is, okay, so these are people who are already connected to town functions. It seems like we would have to open it to the public, give them a chance as well, because, these guys are getting a second chance, whereas the guy that lives down the street didn't get 2 chances. He only got the 1 chance while it was up before.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, the committee already closed the survey, like we,
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
this,
now we're
okay,
opening it up again specifically to
yeah,
poll people who are,
no, I'm
So-
sorry. I think you're opening a can of worms if you do that. I think it's perfectly legitimate and reasonable to move to reach out to those people who ultimately bear by their volunteering a responsibility in the areas that we are committed and directed by the damn state, for heaven's sake, to actually involve in this. And if you don't do it, if you don't, you know that you essentially have just kind of left it on the floor.
Kristen, I'm okay with you sending that email out. And I would suggest maybe we leave it open till Sunday night because some people might not get to it till the weekend. So that's my only suggestion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
whenever it
obviously,
goes.
Monday morning, Sunday.
yeah, obviously you don't do it in a way that's intrusive, invasive. And I despite my performance at this minute, I think I can be in print, hopefully my wife is very good at this. She raised lots of money for years, being very good at being very polite to people. And so I will essentially pass it through her and she will tell me, you can't possibly send that out. Or no, maybe that'll work. Anyway, let me have a go at drafting it. I will send it to you all. So I do not want anybody on the committee not to be aware of something. I'm not going to do it all by myself. I want you all to feel comfortable that this is something that is worth doing because
Well, Kristen just offered to write it as well, like just a quick email. So maybe you two could just coordinate. And Kristen, as long as you send it, I'm good with it.
yeah.
I'm good with it. But I also have a comment on the results as well. And I know that we're running out of time. So when we get to other comments, I'll chime in.
Okay.
Is that an okay plan? Kristen and David will coordinate sending out a request to boards and commissions. Okay, cool. So Christine, what was your
I
comment?
guess I would vote against that if we're voting.
Against
Against what?
what? I'm not.
Against asking a specific set of people to add to the data set. There's a couple of reasons why.
No, Sean, this is not, the thrust of this is not adding to the data set as far as I'm concerned, in a way that pushes the data set one way or another. This is, I don't know, how can I put this? This is what I would consider to be essentially the broad aspects of community responsibility.
Basically, in 2010, we wrote a whole plan. We gave it to the select board and the conservation commission, and they told us they didn't want it. And so if we get that kind of response again today, that's a very telling thing. And I think that might be a little bit at what the heart of what like David's trying to get at. Like if it seems like there's inner town support, that just gives us that extra little oomph.
Yeah.
But if it's not,
Right.
I just
You
want
know?
them to give us their raw, unfiltered, like I'm a resident in the town and here's what I want. I don't want them to give us their position as as their job, whatever
Well,
their
Right,
job.
this is-
function
this
I
is a
want
cer-
their- This is
Yeah.
a citizen survey, right?
It's a citizen survey, yeah. I don't think we
Yeah.
should blur the line there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Okay.
so that's why I say, we should either open it up for everybody or just leave it the way it is.
no, if
So-
we, I'm sorry, how do we, if we do that, how do we do that?
Well,
Uh,
I don't think that there probably isn't any way to prevent somebody from going and taking the survey.
I mean, if it's
That would be-
open, I think the way Google Forms works is you can open it up and then it's like published again, so like anyone with the link can go and like take it again, so like if.
what is it you're worried about? Why
I
can't we?
think I understand Sean's concern of like someone, you know, for some reason they heard like after it closed, like, oh, there was a survey open, I really would have liked to, you know, give my input, and then they find out, oh, it was open to just
Well, yes, but
groups. Like that's
don't
us,
we
I would
all,
really like to.
yes, but Sadie, don't we all have to be to some degree grown-ups? And that is, if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah,
Well, okay, so I mean, again, I'm just gonna say, I mean, what the ultimate effect is, we're adding to the data set outside the parameters of our information gathering, which we've already closed. So if we do that, we really need to do it for the entire population, just from a matter of scientific accuracy. You could look at it that way. The other thing that I would say is that we're kind of at cross purposes here. If what we want to do is get people who are already hold positions in the town to have more interest in open space, then I think there are other and more creative ways we can do that. It could very well be also that these people have already submitted their responses anonymously. So we don't have any proof for that. But I do like
Well-
the idea of, trying to encourage other people to provide their knowledge, understanding, expertise, et cetera, especially since they do see fit to volunteer. That's a great idea. It's just, I don't think it's worth, I mean, I just don't think it's worth using the survey as the instrument to do that. I think there's probably more collegial, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but certainly a communication of some variety,
That-
talking about what we're working on, how we could use their input. We're looking for ideas, thoughts.
that's sort of, Sean, what I was, sorry for interrupting there or cutting
ahead.
in, but that's with like taking the summary finding of the survey that we have and having a one pager or, something that is succinct that can be shared amongst these different committees and so on, would seem like a way to say this was a citizen, public input. We're sharing it out to you. Do you have any reaction or something along those lines? Which hopefully then, we're leading towards then, giving an update on when the plan will be available and so on. It's a stepping stone, I guess, towards to get them more involved and to, not, Mike, like you're saying, reject the plan or say no thanks, but anyway, that's where I'm at.
I like the idea of doing whatever we can to get those results out there. I
Right.
think that would go a long way towards convincing people that open space is important in town, and maybe it's, maybe it's time to, I mean, so far, all we're doing is this report, but I guess we're gonna be moving more towards, well, I mean, we have a lot of things in town that we should be paying attention to, which I guess we're not. Like, for example, the parking lot at Great Meadow Farm, the state of the Marsh Loop Trail, things like this. If we could just get this survey and this report done, we could really move more towards that stuff.
Okay,
See-
so let me then give this some more thought. I appreciate everybody's, reactions, suggestions. I think that maybe a middle way is a sort of combination of what Jim was just talking about, maybe with some parts of the survey. I'm thinking just off the top of my head that something along a brief report of what's sort of coming back and using part of the survey perhaps to ask some specific questions. Largely because some of those questions do relate to the function that they've opted, the role they've opted to volunteer, to take on in the town, just as we have. So let me give it some more thought and draft something and send it out to you. I think, I don't want to muddle up where we are in terms of the survey itself by, I think, opening up again has all kinds of problems as to how we do that in terms of getting information to people, particularly this time of year, and why are we doing it, a number of things there. So that's where I think we can sort of leave that. The only other thing I would point to is that on the little summary that I did send out, I do think that we have a little fine tuning of not just specifically the survey because we've done it, but also the kinds of questions that we are asking people, or the kinds of eventually way we phrase areas of interest and so on, because I noticed that some of the things in the list of activities, for example, promoted very considerable response, and others I think were partly perhaps even misinterpreted. I think there's a whole issue here between, and we need to, I think about this, the difference between recreation and organized sports, and how those words are used in government and in documents and in people's lives, because it's pretty clear that a slightly significant majority of people who responded to the survey, who may have their own biases in terms of kinds of groups they are, do not want to see an increase in formal recreational sports. But they all do, a significant number of them do want to see more attention and more, I think, frankly, town resources, meaning, among other things, dollars spent on the whole business of protecting land, but also taking care of what we have. And this seems to be, by the way, a theme which is emerging in other open space plans, because I've been looking at some of them that were in the list that Jim found and sent around to us, the list of recent ones. And that seems to be an increasing theme, that when, as a very broadly, as a community in the state and perhaps in the Northeast, are not taking enough care of sort of our own backyard, and looking after what we've got, and making sure that we have the kind of opportunities we need to have. I also think we do have a little problem of the fact that there's a little bit of age bias that seems to be operating here, and I think people of the sort of over 50 age, over 60 age, have a little more sway in this than other people. And the obvious thing it's missing because we perhaps couldn't identify it, is we really don't know what the interesting age group between like 14, 15 and 20 something think particularly. It's fairly obvious that we had a fairly heavy input of two, well, I would say, two parent, two kid homes. But we need, I think, to find ways of identifying those kind of populations a little better in the future. So that's it. Anything else at this point? Not from me, anyway. Anybody else have something to report on or want to bring up? Nobody?
I
Okay.
guess I received some sections, which thank you to those of you who sent me things. If you haven't yet, that's okay, but I thought we should talk about like our timeline a little bit and like sort of reevaluate what, like set some goals maybe for having a sort of draft done. Does anyone have any thoughts about like where they are and how much time you want to spend on your section or anything like that?
I-
Go ahead, Jim, you can start. if you'd like.
Okay. Nope. Sorry, Mike.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely in section 3, community setting, like I definitely need some more time there. I do need to meet with you and Kristen, I guess you'd just to, because they really are saying in this new version, 2 to 3 pages for that section versus the 20 some odd pages last time. So, and then that, in the workbook, it's hard to sometimes get a handle on exactly what they want there. So I think how we talk about like, say zoning came up, we had the zoning map, like how does that even get discussed rather than just putting a map without, I have questions for you guys because I'm just not familiar with some of that. And, if I refer to the master plan from 2 years ago, it says go ahead and copy from there. Well, there's a lot you could copy.
Mhm.
And I think you guys would probably have a much more direct sense of, what could go in, sort of keeping in mind this is about open space and recreation. So I will reach out to you and I guess set something up in the next 2 weeks. In terms of time frame, I would say probably I would think sometime having a draft sometime I'll say mid-October. I know that probably is later than we were hoping, but that's so early to mid-October, I guess I would commit to for mine.
Yeah, I think that's, reasonable.
Yeah.
I think David and I still have lots to do with, survey data and things like that. And like we've talked about, and I would like to, go through what I've received so far with the people that sent them and, I want, if you want to talk to us about your section, then I want to definitely make time for that as well.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
work together on it.
Sounds
So yeah.
I mean,
And
that
yeah.
sounds like a good idea to me, is I don't know when you guys were planning for the next meeting, but if, finding an hour for each of your bucket of work to come in and talk with Sadie and me or Zoom, whatever, and just like go through it all and just push forward on any questions we have and put our heads together and then bring it back to the full committee. That seems like a pretty productive way to do it. Sadie and I are here all the time, but we are like pulled in 8 million directions all the time. So I'm always up for like just scheduling a meeting, focusing on what it is, and then, you can carry on with email.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Does
Yeah,
that sound like doable? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that sounds really good. If you guys are willing to give us, I mean, that's a lot of time to meet with all of us individually. But that'd be really helpful. We can forward you a rough draft or something prior, so you can skim it. So when we come, it'll be a little bit more productive. And yeah, I mean that'd be great. And then you can also like formatting and all that stuff. That'll get all worked out in the end. But yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we have the
does,
same thing for our
Brian-
section.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, we have like 7 subsections. Section 4 is like pretty technical and dense, and there's 7 subsections, and I recommended it being 5 pages. We're like, all right, well, if we just make every section
Right.
1 page, then fine, it's 7 pages. It's no problem, right? It's just like we're trying to keep it reasonable, but that does pare down a lot. So we're taking like master plan. We've made good progress on like 2 of those 7. Actually, I don't think we're even in charge of the 7th section. I think we're only in charge of the first 6. And so we have taken master plan language, and then we just cut out everything that's not. We end up with just a couple sentences because that's all we need. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But actually, Sadie, I would love it if you could send me that soils map, because I think that might also simplify things for the soil section as well, just so I can refresh my memory there. So yeah,
Okay, I will do that.
thanks. But yeah, sounds good. Schedule time.
Yeah, and I can reach out sometime this week to talk, about how people are feeling and if we want to schedule something or wait a little bit to get more work done on the sections. So I'll do that this week.
Or you guys just contact us.
Or
The
that
time
too,
that
yeah.
works. And then, yeah, I mean, I know we talked to a lot of you, we talked to all of you, but anyway, I think that would work. And I do think it would be something Sadie and I have talked about is just kind of sketching out like now through December or whatever, right? Like just a little bit more of a overall project management guide.
Well, might I
Get it going.
suggest that, okay, as I understand it, everybody except me has a specific section or task covering sections of the plan. Am I right? Yes?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to give you one of the subsections in section 4 if you'd like. So we don't have to.
No, I'm not volunteering for anything. No, what I was going to say is that
Too late.
does it make sense to essentially make sure that in the next, 3+ weeks, everybody gets a chance to meet as they need to or not with Sadie and or Kristen, and to essentially, assess where they are and what they need to do, so that we can have as a group some idea of whether what our schedule realistically can be. Because at this point, what I'm wondering is, this kind of process is okay, but as I think, well, I don't say sense, singling out people, or I think Jim and Christina know particularly that the documents written by committees often read that way. And someone is going to have to, or some couple of people are going to have to edit this and make it, sort of work as a document that has some sort of flow.
Yeah, that's what
And
Bill was mentioning earlier, that like that's just gonna have to come later.
yeah,
It's just
it
gonna have to
is,
come
it
later.
is, but my sense is do we have a process sort of identified and tied to dates or not to have the building blocks for that? Because, I would point out tonight we had here we are, it's 9 o'clock, and I don't have any problem with that, but we had a very long discussion on maps, which in some ways is very difficult to do, from my perspective, productively online, when you're looking at stuff where the level of detail and et cetera, and one's ability to move around in it, because there's only one person who's got the the handle on the controls. And I would hope that we don't need to do that too often. Just, you know, so what am I saying? I'm saying, okay, here we have as usual on the agenda, when is our next meeting? Well, my question would be is, when is our next productive meeting? Right?
I
I
would
felt
love
that
to
this
see,
was a super productive way. I thought we got so much done on this meeting. I was like, this is the best. Everyone's looking at the same thing. So anyway, I'm happy to stick with our schedule. I will say that Bill and I are on vacation the second half of September. So I know we usually meet the third Tuesday of the month. And I think that we're probably not here. I guess I'd have to count it out. 1, 2, 3, or maybe 4. Oh, there's 5 of them. So anyway,
When do you get back, you guys?
we're back on the 1st of October.
I was gonna say, maybe we could just wait till next month to have another meeting.
How about the 7th? October 7th, that gives us about a month plus.
And that way we can really,
work.
get a lot done individually.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you want to try to meet with those of us that are in full-time jobs, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a Tuesday.
There's
during
only
your
so many
business
Tuesday nights
hours,
that we're
so,
gonna be setting up on your schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, and it's
So,
only if you need to meet. We don't have to meet with all.
Yep.
If you're feeling
Well-
good, you've already done a lot, Mike, on, a lot of your sections, we can email, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have some
Whatever
questions
works.
and I could use some guidance on what's remaining there. Which I was actually thinking about talking to David about. At some point, if you were
Sure.
looking for something to,
Yeah,
it's not a heavy lift. I just have, your planning board experience in the past, obviously Kristen's current planning board experience, but any town properties where any sort of grant funding was used, like I have no concept if like the town's ever done grant funding for the Great Meadow or, what they did for Mantor Fields, like those kind of little details that I don't even know where to begin looking for to find that information for the town owned stuff that's left in my section. That's kind of like all I have left to do in there.
right. No, well, that's the
And-
kind of
and-
stuff we need to get nailed down in terms of
Yeah.
things that are applied to, well, it comes back to what I was just saying earlier. We need to know as much as we can about the resources we have and the resources we need to look after those, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Martha's also a good resource for stuff like that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good call. I
Yeah.
wasn't
So
sure
let's
what
just
she was.
connect on that.
Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to adjourn, I think?
Well,
So,
did we-
so just to be clear, our next meeting's gonna be October 7th at the usual time, 7 o'clock. Zoom
Mhm.
in person, do people have a preference?
Well, what I was wondering is it possible? I don't know, and this is something I can do offline later, but I was just wondering if it's possible to meet in person, to do it using the big board in the meeting room, but also to have access to that data on our own computers. Do you see what
Like
I'm
the
saying?
maps,
Yeah,
you mean?
like the maps or like somebody's paragraph or whatever it is, because one of the ways you can do that is you can move around in something
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
agree.
whether how technically possible that is, but I'm more than willing to sort of see if we can explore that because I think it's useful.
Yeah.
I
can-
just found a couple of times when we were just like discussing, the subtleties of hot zones. It just it didn't make much sense because I couldn't, even on a fairly large size monitor here, I really couldn't see what was there, and I couldn't blow it up because Sadie or
think we got
somebody
it. So,
else.
I think that Sadie, can you just send out the revised versions once you get them from Merrimack Valley? After you incorporate the comments, you can send them out to us, or do you want to send them out and get our comments after we all get to look at them individually? Which
I guess it's up to you guys if you want to take a closer look at them on your own. Sounds like that's what you're interested in doing, David. Maybe next week you guys could, send some more comments and then I could.
Yeah, I think
Sophie?
if we're going to be using, as we are, that kind of graphic data to be major vehicles for part of the plan and how we were, explain our community, et cetera, then I think, yes, the more we are able to see those and perhaps play with them ourselves, if we want to do that, the better.
Okay.
Because some of the ones that came up tonight, I had seen before in broad terms, others I hadn't seen. And I'm a bit of a, well, okay, a sort of.
All right, so Sadie's gonna post them. Everybody can look at them. Give us a deadline for giving you comments next week. Sorry.
Yeah.
How
David, we
about-
gotta
Okay.
How about Monday? Think you can do it this week and then
Yeah.
if I don't hear by Monday, I'll assume you're good with all the maps.
Sure, that would be
All right.
great. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. All right, so somebody move to adjourn. Oh, well, Bill.
Like to move to adjourn, please.
And a second?
Seconded.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned if everybody is in favor. Everybody is in favor, yes?
Yes.
I
Aye.
know Christina is.
go. Thanks, David. Yeah,
Okay.
this is really productive though. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Yeah, thank you for hanging in there, everybody.
Bye.